The Duke finally found his long-lost daughter, but the girl plunged the sharp blade in her hand toward her own father. The Duke gripped the blood-stained blade tightly, looking in shock at the girl before him, her eyes full of hatred. "Ella, what are you doing?" The girl's voice trembled. "Don't call me by that name. And I am not your daughter." Ever since she could remember, the girl had lived on the run with a red-haired, venomous man. The man claimed to be her father. He told the girl, "All the suffering we are enduring now is because of Roderick, the Duke of Wessefen. That man cut off my right arm and ruined my life. So my daughter avenged me." For the sake of her only relative, the girl learned various assassination techniques from a young age, all to kill Roderick and avenge her father. Finally, 2 years ago, she posed as Roderick's long-lost daughter, Ella, and was brought back to the Duke of Wessefen's estate. However, the girl always had a question. She didn't know her own name, nor her father's name. Her father always called her daughter, and his subordinates all called her Mississippi. Whenever she asked her father, the man would tell her, "If you know your name, it will bring you fatal disaster. On the day you succeed in your revenge, I will tell you your name." Now, that moment had finally arrived. The girl tightly gripped the dagger her father had lent her, waiting in the darkness for Roderick, the Duke, to arrive. But for some reason, a faint unease lingered in her heart. As the door was pushed open, Duke Roderick walked in, the head of the Wessefen family, the greatest guardian of the empire. Only when facing his daughter would he show his affectionate side. "Ella, why aren't the lights on?" The words had barely left his mouth when the Duke keenly sensed someone else in the room. He pulled the girl behind him, his eyes fixed on the dark corner. Now is the time. The moment the blade thrust out, the Duke spun around with astonishing speed. He instinctively grabbed the blade with his bare hand. He looked at the girl in disbelief. However, the blade was coated with a potent poison. The poison quickly spread throughout the Duke's body. The Duke staggered and fell to the ground. Looking at the girl, his eyes held not a trace of resentment, only endless love and regret. "Ella, my daughter, I'm sorry." Just then, a figure emerged from the darkness. Red hair, amber eyes. The prosthesis on his right arm reflected a cold light. "Roderick, you took everything from me. Today, I finally got rid of you. You're Byron." After uttering the name, the Duke closed his eyes forever. The girl looked at the man. "Is that my father's name?" Byron swirled the red wine in his glass. He wanted to celebrate this moment with the girl, but the girl wasn't as happy as she had imagined. Instead, she pressed him for her name. A hint of madness flashed in the man's eyes. "Drink the wine, and I'll tell you." The girl took the glass and took a sip. The moment the strong liquor went down her throat, she heard her name, Ella Wessefen. The wine glass shattered on the floor. The man ruthlessly tore apart the lie he had woven. "You are the biological daughter of Roderick Wessefen. I kidnapped you and raised you, only to have you kill your own father with your own hands. And that is my revenge." Ella's world collapsed. Poisoned, blood gushed from her mouth. She heard Byron's cold laugh. "Every time I see you, those blue eyes of yours make me sick. Only this hair, so similar to your mother's, is worth looking at. Don't worry about your mother. She will be very happy by my side." The girl couldn't accept this reality. She had been deceived for over a decade, even killing her own biological father for him. As she lay dying, a figure ran towards her, calling her name. It was her mother. So, the mother she had always longed for was right in front of her. Anger, unwillingness, heartache, regret. Ella looked at her biological father not far away. She struggled to reach out her hand to him. A white light flashed before her eyes. Ella's eyes flew open. She looked at the familiar stone walls and simple furniture around her. Ella sat up. "Didn't I die?" A familiar figure pushed the door open, urging her to get up for morning practice. Ella stared at the maid. "Laura, what's going on? Why does she look so much younger?" Seeing Ella motionless, Laura urged her again impatiently. It wasn't until she saw her own childish face in the water basin that Ella froze completely. She had clearly been poisoned to death the day before her 18th birthday. "Why do I look like I'm only 12 now? Have I been reborn into the past?" With no time to think, Ella quickly got ready and headed to the training grounds. Laura's supervisor, as always, "Move faster. Don't disappoint your father." Though she was a maid, she constantly pressured Ella like a master. Ella hadn't thought anything of it before, but after living in the Duke of Wessefen's estate for 2 years, and experiencing the genuine care and love of the Duke and Duchess, Ella was shocked to realize she was nothing more than a hunting dog raised by Byron, to be disposed of once she had served her purpose. But now, she had to continue her disguise, wagging her tail and begging for their favor. How she was revived didn't matter. What mattered was that she must kill the demon Byron with her own hands to avenge herself and her parents. Ella arrived at the training grounds. The instructor, Claude, had been waiting for a long time. "Miss, did you oversleep?" Although Claude wasn't as strict as Laura, he was also one of Byron's lackeys. After hearing Claude outline the day's training tasks, Ella looked up at the sky through the gaps in the leaves. She was 12 now. It would be another 4 years before she returned to the Duke's estate. She longed to return to her parents' arms and atone for the mistakes she had made. Ella trained in the woods, as usual. Her agile figure moved through the trees. She easily leaped onto a tree, thankful that her abilities were still intact. If she kept up this training, perhaps she could return to the Duke's estate sooner. But she suddenly remembered. Byron had placed some kind of curse on her. She didn't know what this curse was. She only remembered that it could only be lifted after Byron entered the Duke's estate. There were too many mysteries surrounding Byron. What was his true identity? How could an exile organize large-scale assassinations? Why was he fixated on her mother? What was his real goal? Ella looked at the stone fortress in the distance and suddenly noticed something strange. The area she lived in clearly had only one small room, but from the outside, it looked much larger. Could there be a hidden space? This discovery thrilled Ella. If she could find a secret passage, perhaps she could uncover Byron's plans. Ella jumped down from the tree, preparing to investigate that night. But as she ran, she stepped in a puddle on the roadside. The reflection in the water made her freeze. Those azure blue eyes were identical to her father's. But in her past life, she was blinded by hatred and never noticed this detail. No matter how perilous the road ahead, she had to walk it. She had to make up for her mistakes and atone with the rest of her life. In the dim dining room, Byron sat alone at the table. As footsteps approached, the white-haired, blue-eyed girl slowly walked toward her enemy. She greeted him as usual. "Good evening, father." "My daughter, come here." Ella suppressed her hatred and knelt beside Byron. The man stroked her hair. "Laura said you overslept this morning and didn't train much. What happened?" It seemed like concern, but it was an interrogation. "I'm sorry, father. I had a terrible nightmare. I dreamed that you abandoned me." Ella feigned fear, hugging Byron's leg and pleading. This reaction clearly pleased him. "My daughter, I would never abandon you. You are my only hope for revenge. From now on, you must wake up on time. Don't slack off in your training." When Ella looked up, revealing those azure eyes, Byron abruptly pushed her face away. "All right, go eat." Ella stared at him, her eyes filled with surging hatred. That night, while combing her hair, Laura relentlessly brainwashed her. "Oh, you know how much the master loves you? You must work harder not to disappoint him." Seeing Ella's cold reaction, Laura suddenly yanked her hair. "That you've been so arrogant all day. Are you dissatisfied with me?" Ella endured it with all her might. For revenge, she couldn't be impulsive now. "I'm just tired." Laura stared at Ella resentfully. Before leaving, she told her to go to sleep quickly. Ella breathed a sigh of relief. She immediately began her search for the secret passage. By the dim candlelight, Ella fumbled along the wall for a long time. She finally found a wider crack. She stood on a chair and felt all the nearby bricks. With a click, a brick suddenly sank inward. A secret passage was revealed before her. "I finally found it." Ella hesitated for a moment, then walked straight into the darkness. In the office, Claude was reporting to Byron about Ella's training. Today was her first swordsmanship lesson, but Ella's performance was not at all like a 12-year-old's. Her swordsmanship is unbelievably exquisite. Byron sneered. "She is the daughter of the first knight, Roderick. The better her swordsmanship, the easier it will be to kill her own father." After the two left, Ella pushed open the secret door and went inside. It turned out the secret passage led directly to Byron's office. Byron had been secretly monitoring her all along. Their recent conversation felt like a knife to Ella's heart. She knew she had no natural talent. All her achievements came from hard practice. The irony was that she had practiced so desperately because she wanted to avenge her so-called father. Ella quietly searched Byron's desk, hoping to find some valuable clues. On the desk was a letter written in code. It used wolf, lion, and hound as substitutes. It said Byron was conspiring with someone to eliminate a lion protected by a wolf. But the other party seemed worried about the plan failing, while Byron reassured them not to worry. My hound is very useful. It will eliminate the wolf soon. Ella realized that she was the hound, and the wolf was her father, Roderick. And her father's death was just a stepping stone to murder someone else. A chill ran down Ella's spine. What was Byron plotting? Captured by the man as a child and raised to be his pawn, she had killed her own biological father with her own hands. Once she had lost her usefulness, she was immediately poisoned and eliminated by the man. After learning the truth, the girl was reborn in regret, determined to kill this demon and avenge her parents. When Ella snuck into Byron's office in the middle of the night, she accidentally discovered he was brewing an even bigger conspiracy. But Ella couldn't fully understand the contents of the secret letter and decided to investigate later. On her way back to her room, Ella passed a partially open door. The conversation from inside caught her attention. Sister-in-law, must we continue to deceive that child? Ella peeked through the crack in the door. The speaker was Claude, and the woman he called sister-in-law was actually Capella, who had taken care of her years ago. Uncle, how can you say that? Have you forgotten what that child's father did to us? Laura retorted, her voice choked with tears. Only then did Ella realize that these three were a family. From their conversation, Ella learned that Claude's older brother, Laura's father, had been killed by Duke Roderick years ago. Their whole family had been on the run ever since, following Byron only to one day get their revenge, clear their names as fugitives, and live a normal life. My father was a knight who died protecting his master, but now I have to serve the daughter of my enemy, Laura cried resentfully. Claude quickly went to comfort her. Ella prepared to leave with mixed feelings, but Claude suddenly became alert. What was that sound? Capella looked out the window. The magic messenger has arrived. But Claude was a little puzzled. That didn't sound like it just now. Back in her room, Ella tossed and turned. The conversation of the three kept replaying in her mind. Did her father really kill someone? Was Byron's revenge justified? But she quickly dismissed the thought. No, Byron kidnapped me and raised me to be a killing tool. He's a demon through and through. I absolutely cannot believe their words. At dawn, Laura came to wake Ella. The master is in a bad mood today, so he won't be having breakfast with you. Ella's heart tightened. Did he find out I snuck into his office last night? At that moment, Byron was in a rage. According to the letter received last night, Ella's mother, Ophelia, had suddenly fallen into a coma 10 days, AG.MY Ophelia. She is so beautiful, and now she's lying in a sickbed. Prepare the carriage immediately. I must go see her, even if Roderick tries to stop me. Byron suddenly calmed down. The painful memory of losing his right arm filled him with fear of the man that don't prepare the carriage. I absolutely cannot fall into that man's hands. Staring at the map on the table, Byron suddenly broke into a crazed smile. Right here. Begin the operation immediately. It's time to show our strength and force those old geezers to make a move. Byron's crazed eyes were full of greed and desire. We're just eliminating a half-grown little lion. Is it that difficult? Claude was shocked by his idea. Byron approached Claude step by step. What's wrong? Does your knightly spirit forbid killing children? Or have you developed feelings for Ella? His innermost thoughts exposed, Claude broke out in a cold sweat, collapsing to the ground and hastily denying it. His eyes were filled with fear. Byron sneered, then cast aside your useless sympathy. People like us will stop at nothing to achieve our goals. Hesitation will only lead to missed opportunities. In front of the majestic palace, the black-haired, handsome youth was about to depart, but his father held him in a tight embrace. My dear son, what will I do if I miss you after you're gone? Have you packed everything you need? The youth comforted him. Don't worry, father. It's only a 1-month trip. I'm more worried about my teacher's family situation. Don't worry. His wife woke up today. The youth breathed a sigh of relief. That's wonderful. After watching the youth's carriage depart, the man continued to listen to his attendant's report. Although Lady Wessefin has regained consciousness, her physical condition is not good. It's highly likely. All right, I understand. Send the best doctors over. Report any changes immediately. Ella tossed and turned in bed, agitated. Laura's words today had left her unsettled all day. She wanted to get information from Claude, but he was unresponsive. What was more infuriating was that even though Claude himself was late, he increased her training intensity. What unsettled her most was that Byron had suddenly ordered her to start learning how to make poison tomorrow. This was several years earlier than planned. What happened? Did my rebirth change the future? Ella felt a deep sense of powerlessness. Trapped here, she was completely ignorant of the outside world. At this moment, she thought of her biological parents again. If only someone could hold her. She longed to go back soon, to that distant future. A few nights later, Ella snuck into Byron's office again. This time, she found a mark on the map. Primos. It was a city named after the founding emperor. It even gave rise to a special tradition for selecting the heir to the throne. Why was Byron suddenly going there? Was it related to the plan to kill the lion? Ella searched the entire office, but found that all the letters had been destroyed. Just then, Byron's voice came from outside the door. He ordered Claude to bring Ella to him immediately. Ophelia's face haunts my mind. I can't sleep without seeing that shining silver hair. Terrified, Ella quickly ran back to her room. She had just lain down and pretended to be asleep when she heard footsteps getting closer. Her heart pounded wildly. At that moment, Byron pushed the door open. His hand, reeking of alcohol, touched her silver hair. Ophelia. Ella suddenly sat up, looking at him with a feigned look of shock, but her voice trembled with nervousness. Father, what are you doing here? Are you here to see me? She had just snuck back in her room when the man burst in. His cloudy eyes were bloodshot, and he kept muttering the name that haunted his dreams. M.Y. Ophelia. Unexpectedly, the girl sat up, forcing herself to remain calm and greet the man. Father, what are you doing here? Are you here to see me? Those azure eyes were like a bucket of cold water, instantly waking Byron up. She wasn't Ophelia. She was the daughter of his enemy. Byron staggered away. Ella nervously clutched the bedsheets. Did he discover something? The next day, during the poison lesson, Ella was distracted. Claude reminded her that handling poison was very dangerous, and she must concentrate. I'm sorry. Ella secretly observed Claude. He was there last night. You probably didn't notice anything, right? You did a good job pretending to be asleep last night. But the master was very drunk. He probably doesn't remember anything. These words made Ella's heart tighten. Was I discovered? But you should still be careful next time. He's not the type to sympathize with your grievances. Ella was a bit confused. What does that mean? You've been eating and training alone lately. It's understandable if you feel aggrieved. Ella hadn't expected Claude to think she was throwing a tantrum. Ella immediately seized the opportunity, feigning grievance and asking, "What's been wrong with father lately? Did I do something wrong? It's not because of you." Seeing Claude's expression soften, she took the chance to ask the crucial question, did I ask it because of that person named Ophelia? The name indeed made Claude's expression change drastically. Last night, Byron had said her mother's name out loud. Ella took this opportunity to probe. Claude's expression was complicated. Yes, it's all because of her. It's also the reason you're here, and even the reason the master is unwilling to face reality. Ella was about to ask more when a piece of candy was suddenly stuffed into her mouth. This caught Ella off guard. You must keep what I told you a secret. We're going to faraway place tomorrow. Get a good rest tonight. Claude's rough fingers brushed across Ella's cheek. The girl keenly sensed the complex emotions contained within. Are you pitying me? Claude shook his head. Only he knew that he had indeed developed feelings for the killing tool his master was cultivating. The next morning, the group disguised themselves as a Count's family on an outing and prepared to leave. Laura handed a disguise potion to Ella, repeatedly reminding her, "Remember, the potion only lasts for one day. You must not reveal your true appearance after it wears off." After drinking the potion, Ella transformed into a black-haired, golden-eyed girl. With the similarly disguised Byron, they looked like a real father and daughter, and Ella was also prepared. After Claude left yesterday, she had made a sleeping potion. She could use it to escape Laura's surveillance if necessary. Ella secretly calculated. Byron hadn't brought many people on this trip. Only Claude was likely to act alone. As long as she followed him, she would surely find some valuable clues. The carriage gradually approached Primos. Ella was speechless, stunned by the city built into the mountainside. Thinking back, this was a magnificent sight that even her past self never had the chance to see. Arriving at the city gate, the guards conducted a routine inspection of them. The process was quite thorough. Not only were everyone's identification documents checked, but even their luggage was opened for inspection. Only after confirming everything was in order were they allowed to pass. When night fell, Ella saw Claude cloaked quietly leaving the inn through a crack in the window. She immediately mixed the sleeping potion into Laura's cup. After Laura fell into a deep sleep, she nimbly climbed onto the roof, follow Claude. This way I can ruin Byron's plan. Under the moonlight, Claude's figure moved quickly through the complex alleys. Ella leaped silently between rooftops like a cat. Suddenly, a dazzling white light flashed not far away. As the light faded, a youth in a white cloak appeared out of thin air. Ella couldn't help but marvel, so rich, using teleportation magic. Seeing Claude draw his dagger and approach the youth, Ella's heart skipped a beat. Could this child be his target? The unsuspecting youth was walking towards an empty, dark alley. Oh no, this is dangerous. Without a second thought, Ella leaped from the roof. The moment the disguise potion wore off, her long, silver-white hair traced a dazzling arc in the moonlight. When a youth looked up, his eyes met Ella's, which had returned to their original azure blue. The girl, bathed in moonlight, descended from the sky like an angel. She burst into the youth's line of sight without any warning. Claude was quietly approaching with his dagger drawn, but found that the youth had suddenly disappeared. In a narrow alley around the corner, Ella covered the youth's mouth. The two of them pressed closely together, hiding in the shadows. Don't move. The person trying to assassinate you is still nearby. The youth blinked and nodded obediently. Only after confirming that Claude had gone far away did Ella let go. The youth eagerly fired off a barrage of questions. Who are you? You just fell from the sky. Are you an angel? Not far away, a group of guards was searching everywhere with torches held high. He couldn't have gone far. Everyone, stay alert. Search all areas immediately. At this moment, Ella and the youth were standing on a rooftop, watching them from afar. The youth was a bit embarrassed. I was planning to sneak back, but it seems impossible now. He suddenly noticed Ella's dust-covered clothes. Are you hurt? Only then did Ella notice her disheveled appearance. Oh no, if I go back like this, I'll definitely be discovered. The youth smiled and took out a magic scroll. As he chanted the spell, Ella's clothes were instantly as good as new. How about that? Laundry magic is very convenient, isn't it? He took off his own cloak and spread it beside him. Sit here, and your clothes won't get dirty again. Ella hesitated that I don't think that's a good idea. The youth nonchalantly replied, being considerate to a lady is a gentleman's virtue. The two sat side by side. When he learned that Ella was only 12, the youth was quite shocked that you're 2 years younger than me, but you're so skilled. You landed as nimbly as a cat. That's so cool. The direct compliment made Ella's cheeks flush. This was the first time anyone had praised her like that. I should be thanking you. You even washed my clothes. Seeing the girl's reserved demeanor, the youth shook his head. You don't have to thank me. You saved my life. The youth suddenly leaned closer. His sunny smile made Ella too nervous to look him in the eye. The youth took out an exquisite brooch from his pocket. This is for you. Thank you for saving me. I will definitely repay today's kindness. The youth pressed the brooch into Ella's hand. My name is Fred Perez. What's your name? Upon hearing this surname, Ella's eyes widened in an instant. The Perez of the Empire. The youth before her was none other than the current crown prince, the very lion that Byron mentioned in his secret letter he wanted to eliminate. At this moment, Claude was still searching for Fred. In the next second, a sharp sword was placed on his shoulder. The person was none other than Fred's guard captain, Alec. This area is under the jurisdiction of the Royal Guard. What are you doing here? Claude didn't respond. He spun around, swiftly parrying Alec's sword, and thrust back at him. In the clash of blades, the two were evenly matched. When they pulled apart, Alec sneered disdainfully. It's been a while. Your swordsmanship has become so dirty. Claude, you traitor. What are you doing here now? Claude remained silent, but when he looked up again, one of his eyes had turned an eerie blood red. Learning that the youth was the crown prince, Ella's mind was in a whirl. She suddenly remembered that the symbol of the royal family was a lion. Byron wanted to kill the lion. His actions were undoubtedly treason. Why was he doing this? Seeing Ella's silence, Fred thought his identity had frightened her. Looking at Fred's golden eyes, so similar to Byron's, an idea suddenly formed in Ella's mind. Excuse me, do you have an uncle? Although Fred was puzzled as to why Ella didn't know this well-known royal history, he patiently explained, yes, I do. His name is Byron Perez. As he spoke, a royal secret slowly unfolded. It turned out that Fred's grandfather had broken tradition and passed the throne to his second son, Fred's father, instead of the eldest son, Byron. The enraged Byron gathered nobles and started a rebellion. At the critical moment, Duke Roderick and his knights arrived. The appearance of the Empire's most powerful sword master quickly suppressed the rebellion. Byron fled in panic and is still wanted to this day. 3 years ago, on his deathbed, my grandfather told me, "Your uncle is still alive. He will return for revenge someday. You must study hard and stay by your father's side to support him. This is my last request." Fred shouldered his grandfather's last wish. He wanted to grow up quickly, help his father capture his uncle, and bring peace to the land. This was his dream. Ella thought back to her past life. She had helped a villain and killed her own father. But she had never considered what kind of disaster Byron's revenge would bring. Since her rebirth, her mind had been filled only with personal vengeance. She had never even contemplated the meaning of her rebirth. But at this moment, for the first time, she felt grateful for this fate. Perhaps this was the reason she was given a second life. The maid, Laura, woke with a start, finding herself lying on the floor, having slept through the entire night. What on earth happened? She turned to confirm that Ella was still sleeping peacefully, which brought a sigh of relief. Hearing her mother's urgent call, Laura hurriedly ran downstairs. Ella watched her retreating back. After confirming that she hadn't noticed being drugged, Ella lightly snapped her fingers. An exquisite magic box appeared out of thin air. Inside was the brooch given to her by Crown Prince Fred. Recalling everything that happened last night, the memory was still fresh in Ella's mind. Given her identity and the constant surveillance, she didn't want to accept this gift. "It's not convenient for me to keep this." But Fred was very insistent. "You saved me. You deserve this." He summoned a magic box. "This box can be hidden at any time. Just summon it when you need it." Seeing Fred giving her more and more things, Ella was about to refuse, but was interrupted. "If you refuse again, I'll give you even more." Ella had no choice but to accept. Fred asked for her name to transfer ownership of the magical items. Ella hesitated. "Does it have to be my full name?" "No, as long as it's not a fake name. My name is Ella Hylin." Ella didn't know if Fred was completely trustworthy, so she concealed her surname. Perhaps one day in the future, Fred would discover the truth himself. Fred only found the name somewhat familiar, but couldn't recall where he had heard it. He took Ella's hand and chanted a spell. A warm light gradually enveloped the two of them. Meanwhile, the battle between Claude and Alec continued. By some means, he was gradually overpowering Alec. But as reinforcements arrived, Claude decided to retreat. A teleportation circle unfolded at his feet. With a flash of blinding white light, Claude vanished without a trace. Ella also noticed the white light. It seemed it was time for her to go back. She lightly leaped off the roof and turned to catch Fred as he jumped down. She told Fred not to act alone in the future. That assassin was sent by your uncle, Byron. He will keep trying to kill you until you return to the palace. Fred was shocked. "How do you know?" Ella pulled him into an alley and whispered instructions. "It's a secret, but if you find out who I am, please tell my parents. I can't see them now. Please ask them to wait a little longer. I will definitely return to their side." Her eyes shone with sadness and determination. Fred nodded solemnly. The next second, the girl vanished from his sight. Ella tightly gripped the brooch, as if she could still feel that brief warmth. Suddenly, Laura's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Uncle Claude still hasn't returned. It seems he clashed with the royal guard last night." Laura was worried. "What if he's seriously injured? We need to find him as soon as possible. First, write a letter to the temple to cancel the visit." But Capella was much calmer. "Don't make a fuss yet. I'll go take care of some things first. You continue to watch Ella." Ella was thoughtful. Were they originally planning to go to the temple? Considering Byron's personality and his ambition for the throne, could it be that if he had successfully assassinated Fred, he would have held a coronation ceremony for himself? That would explain why he brought her here. It's disgusting. Fortunately, the assassination plan failed. It seems my intervention has affected the course of the future. But this also means my actions will be greatly restricted. But thinking of the sunny youth, Ella didn't regret it. Thanks to meeting him, she had obtained something so precious. No matter what the future holds, she now had the courage to overcome it. At this time, Alec was apologizing to Fred. "I have failed in my duty, allowing your highness to be in danger and the assassin to escape." But Fred felt a little guilty. If he hadn't gone out on his own, none of this would have happened A warrant has been issued throughout the city to search for the assassin's whereabouts. But there isn't a single witness. The city guards didn't see anyone leave either. Claude escaped using a magic circle, and magic scrolls are very expensive. Fred couldn't help but wonder, how does Byron, who has been in exile for years, have the financial resources to organize an assassination? Fred suggested expanding the search area, but Primo's is on the western border. There are too many escape routes. The search will be extremely difficult. The best option now is to return to the capital. Seeing the young crown prince remain calm after the ordeal, Alec felt even more guilty. Time is short, so we will travel light, but I need to take some books with me. Alec was taken aback. What kind of books are you referring to? The Imperial Nobility Register. Fred kept remembering Ella's name. Since he found the name familiar, it must be related to the nobility. He would start by checking the local noble family lists. Recalling the expression on Ella's face when she made her request, Fred's heart ached. Leave it all to me. When we meet again, I will surely grant your wish. The Crown Prince of the Empire had been targeted for assassination. The royal guard sealed off the entire city to search for the killer. Everyone entering and leaving the city was strictly inspected. At this moment, Ella was curled up, hiding with Byron in a secret compartment of the carriage, while Capella and Laura posed as a noble mother and daughter to sneak out of the city. After the failed assassination, Byron was once again a wanted man, forced to escape the search in this manner. Although being squeezed together with Byron made Ella feel sick, if she could just endure today, everything would get back on track. Before this, Ella had received a letter from Claude. It turned out he had escaped the pursuit of the royal guard. He was saved by a country doctor and only regained consciousness 3 days later, returning to their hideout alone. Ella suddenly thought that if she could win Claude over to her side, it would be a great help to her revenge plan. She could feel that Claude had a favorable impression of her. The failure of this assassination was a huge blow to Byron. To evade capture, he would have to hide for many years, and Ella would have to cooperate. Thinking of this, Ella couldn't help but recall the sunny youth. Fred, will we meet again? Will you still remember me then? As soon as Fred returned to the palace, the emperor hugged him and sobbed. Son, you're finally back. I was scared to death when I received your letter. Let me see if you're hurt. Father, I'm fine. A stranger saved me, but you didn't mention this person in your letter, because that person didn't want to reveal their identity. Guard Captain Alec was dumbfounded. Your Highness, you clearly said you came back on your own. The emperor outwardly praised his son's kindness, but inwardly, he thought, saving the crown prince of the empire and then disappearing without seeking reward, that's something only a guilty person would do. He ordered Alec to immediately return to Primo's and thoroughly investigate all the details of that night. Inside the Wessefin ducal estate, Duchess Ophelia had awakened, but the doctors couldn't find the cause of her coma. Roderick looked at his wife's slightly pale face. Even illness couldn't hide her stunning beauty. Ophelia comforted her guilt-ridden husband. It's all right. Thinking of their daughter who was lost 10 years ago, her eyes filled with sorrow. I wonder how Ella is doing now. This is not the time to be sad. His Majesty just sent word. Byron attempted to assassinate the crown prince. The mention of this name sent Roderick's thoughts back 10 years. Grand Prince Byron, in his fight for the throne, launched a coup. At the last moment, Duke Roderick fought his way to the throne alone, where Byron was holding the emperor hostage. A twisted smile hung on his lips, but his eyes were filled with a shattered madness. Look who's here. My dear old friend, Roderick. Roderick's cold gaze pierced through his hypocrisy. Your title of Grand Prince has been revoked. You are not qualified to speak to me. Byron's expression gradually twisted, his roar mixed with unwillingness and resentment. I don't accept it. I am the eldest legitimate son of the royal family, destined to rule this country. But every one of you looks down on me. That's because you lack the ability. I'm giving you one last chance. Resist, and you will be executed on the spot. Byron lowered his head, his soul completely twisted by desire. Roderick, you are the source of all my misfortune. Why must you always take everything from me? At this moment, the elderly emperor spoke with a trembling voice, his aged words becoming the last straw that broke Byron. Duke, I have always had you teach my son, but now I understand. This child is hopeless. I beg you, even if you have to kill him, you must stop him. Just then, Byron's reinforcements suddenly arrived. They covered his escape from the palace. Roderick, I will personally tear that smug look off your face. I will completely destroy your life. Shortly after, Roderick's daughter, Ella, disappeared. Various clues pointed to Byron having kidnapped her, but he had vanished without a trace. This time, Byron's appearance to assassinate the crown prince meant that the opportunity to find their daughter had finally arrived. I was planning to start the search after you recovered. No, we leave now. Ophelia's eyes were full of determination that we finally have a clue about our daughter. We can't waste a single minute. This time, we must bring our daughter back. 3 years passed in a flash. Ella had grown into an all-around assassin, excelling in physical fitness, swordsmanship, and even poison-making. Even Claude lamented that he had nothing left to teach her. At that moment, a magic messenger appeared in the sky. His appearance always brought important news. Ella couldn't help but feel a little worried. Since her rebirth, the trajectory of many events had shifted. What if this triggered an uncontrollable chain reaction? Although Ella hoped for change, her heart pounded with fear. Help me. Give me some courage, Fred. In a palace miles away, Fred suddenly looked out the window. Did someone just call him? A chance encounter under the moonlight had made Ella an indelible mark on Fred's heart. Even though 3 years had passed, he would still remember the faint sorrow in the girl's star-filled blue eyes. Whenever he was alone, Fred would always pick up a pen to write a letter. But because he didn't know her whereabouts, these letters were never sent. The Emperor also noticed his son's abnormality, thinking that the adolescent Fred had a crush. To ease his son's worries, he took the initiative to talk to Fred. Son, come talk to your father about your first love. First love. Seeing his father's knowing expression, Fred was a little bewildered. Don't you often say your heart races, you can't concentrate, and you've even lost your appetite? The doctor said there's nothing wrong with your body. Then there's only one answer. It's lovesickness. Come on, tell your father which girl has captured your heart. Fred's eyes flickered, but he didn't think he was in love with Ella. Father, I don't think it's love. The Emperor's face changed. Don't tell me. Is it not a girl you like, but a boy? It's not like that at all. No matter who you like, I will always support you. Father, are you even listening to me? Fred confessed helplessly. I just can't seem to forget her. I think about her often. I always wonder if she's doing well. That's all. Fred felt a little guilty. 3 years had passed. He had neither found out Ella's identity nor fulfilled her request. Fred urged his father to go deal with his duties. But the Emperor handed him a document. What's this? 3 years ago, the Roderick family went to the west. We haven't been able to meet. Go now and deliver these gifts to the ducal estate for me. Fred's eyes lit up. I asked my teacher coming back, but who are these gifts for? They are congratulatory gifts. They have a new heir. Meanwhile, Ella stood downstairs, looking at the shattered window of Byron's office. She wondered what shocking news he had received and planned to sneak in at night to find out. Over the past 3 years, Ella had been secretly infiltrating Byron's office and had gradually made some startling discoveries. One of Byron's collaborators was Count Xenophon from the neighboring southwestern country. He was Byron's financial backer. Byron must have traded some state secrets for this cooperation. Ella recorded all this important evidence. She hid it in the magic box Fred had given her. But now, what really needed her attention was the change in the future. The current developments were gradually exceeding her expectations. Could it be that besides herself, someone else was changing the future? Ella didn't know the reason for her rebirth. It was very possible that she wasn't the only one who had returned. Miss, what are you doing here? Laura's voice interrupted Ella's thoughts. Mr. Claude wants you back in your room immediately. He said the master is in a very bad mood, and you should be careful. For Claude to give a special warning, the situation must be serious. And sure enough, after reading the letter from the magic messenger, Byron went into a frenzy again. My Ophelia, you're pregnant with someone else's child again? Why is this happening? The one who truly loves you is me. He madly smashed things in the room, venting his emotions. I must kill them. When that bastard enters the Wessefin ducal estate, I'll have him kill the newborn first. When Roderick sees his own daughter kill his other child with her own hands, the look on his face will be priceless. Byron was still fantasizing about his sinister plan. Standing beside him, Claude unconsciously clenched his fists. That night, Ella snuck into the rect office. She searched on the floor and found the unburned letter. The next day during training, Claude noticed that Ella was constantly distracted. What's wrong? Are you not feeling well? As soon as training ended, Ella immediately made an excuse to leave. The contents of last night's letter had thrown her thoughts into chaos. Is Mother having another child? Why is this happening? In my past life, I was their only child. Why has everything changed? Once the child is born, will my parents forget me completely? I don't want to be forgotten. Ella wailed in pain. She knew she had no right to monopolize her parents' love. The sins she committed in her past life had not yet been forgiven. but she wished they could have waited a little longer. Inside the Wessefin ducal estate, Ophelia stared out at the heavy rain. For all these years, she had lived in regret. If she hadn't dismissed that maid back then, would her daughter not have disappeared? She had always regretted it, trying to atone in various ways. And now, the new life unexpectedly growing in her womb plunged her into deeper conflict. This was clearly a miracle from the gods. But why did her heart feel torn in two? One half rejoiced for the new life. The other half ached for the old wound. Ella, my daughter, please forgive your mother. I will raise your younger sibling well. When we find you, they can open another warm embrace to welcome you home. We still love you. We will never abandon you. Learning that her mother was going to have a new child, Ella broke down. She thought her parents had already forgotten her. Years of anticipation and effort turned to dust in that moment. Late at night, a distraught Ella stumbled back to her residence in the pouring rain. This was her first long disappearance, which naturally incurred Byron's wrath. Daughter, you're late. Is the outside world so captivating? Ella knelt on the ground and I'm sorry, I was wrong. Ella knew she couldn't provoke him now. Despite her unwillingness, she could only beg for mercy. But Byron had no intention of letting her off easily. You will kneel outside tonight. Claude and Laura were both shocked. Master, the weather is so cold. If leaving me makes her so happy, then she should enjoy it properly. Kneel here and repent. The cold rain soaked her clothes. Ella gritted her teeth to stay conscious. She knew she couldn't escape this punishment. Byron had been in a bad mood lately. Even if she hadn't made a mistake today, he would have found an excuse to vent his frustration. Claude was still pleading for Ella, but Byron suddenly ordered them to move. That damn Roderick. His men actually appeared in the next village, still searching after 3 whole years. He's insane. We'll leave as soon as possible before he arrives. Tie Ella up and throw her in the carriage. I feel sick just looking at her. This extreme statement shocked Claude. He had thought Byron was just ill-tempered. Only now did he truly realize how twisted this man was. He suddenly began to wonder why his elder brother would follow such a person. No, wait, how can I question the master? Laura's gasp was heard. Miss, she's fainted. Byron looked coldly at the girl collapsed on the ground, but don't let her die. She's still useful. Claude rushed to Ella and picked her up. The feverish girl dreamed of a voice she longed for. Ella, wake up. It was her mother's voice. Her tears fell uncontrollably. Is this a dream? But this warmth felt so real. In a daze, she heard Fred's voice again. Rest well, Ella. I will tell your parents everything about you. A long-lost warmth enveloped her that we will never forget you. When Ella opened her eyes again, she was lying in her own bed. Claude, who was watching over her, sighed in relief. Mississippi. Are you awake? Half asleep. Ella spoke weakly. Claude, you've been lying to me all along. This sentence hit Claude like a thunderclap, his mind going blank. You knew all along? A fever that lasted for days had left Ella extremely weak, and she was drowsy even during their move. In her haze, she could always see Claude's protective figure. But what did the pity flickering in his eyes mean? Claude struggled internally for a long time. Finally, his remaining conscience prompted him to lean close to Ella and whisper, Miss, do you want to know your name? He gazed into Ella's azure eyes, as if searching for some kind of redemption. Uncle, what are you doing? Laura's voice suddenly interrupted him. Her eyes were full of suspicion. Are you concerned about her? Your attitude towards her has been getting stranger and stranger these past few years. Claude's expression stiffened, and he hurriedly explained, I'm just worried she'll break down before the operation. She is, after all, the master's most important tool. These words completely chilled Ella's heart. So all the previous concern was just an act, and Claude sank deeper into confusion. If Ella knew the whole truth, what would he do? In fact, Capella had long seen his wavering. If you're going soft on that brat, take a good look at Laura. Ask yourself who you should be protecting, the daughter of an enemy or your own niece. Meanwhile, Crown Prince Fred arrived at the Wessefin ducal estate with a grand procession of gifts. He was visiting the Duke and Duchess, whom he had not seen in 3 years. He eagerly stepped forward to ask how his teacher was doing. Everything is well. It has been so long. Your Highness has grown to be so outstanding. Fred waved to his attendant. A dazzling array of gifts instantly filled the hall. Beautiful fabrics, precious tonics, and a wide variety of exotic spices, and a gift I prepared especially. Fred eagerly presented an exquisite rattle, a gift for the little baby on the way. The couple beamed with joy. Please convey our heartfelt thanks to His Majesty. It turned out that before his departure, the Emperor had instructed Fred, when you were young, the Duke's family lost a daughter. When you present the gifts, observe their reactions carefully. If there is more sadness than joy, be sure to comfort them. Fortunately, the Duke and Duchess seemed to be in much better spirits. Fred breathed a secret sigh of relief, looking at the gift box in the Duke's hand. Fred thought of the magic box he had given to Ella. It was originally a gift to him from the Duchess. He had regifted it without permission. He should apologize to the Duchess. But if he mentioned Ella, would it remind the Duchess of her lost daughter? He looked up at the Duchess's gentle face. In that instant, he made a startling discovery. The Duchess and Ella looked so much alike. The Crown Prince had made a startling discovery. The appearance of Duchess Ophelia was remarkably similar to the girl he had met by chance 3 years ago. Ella. Could it be that Ella was the Duke and Duchess's daughter who had been missing for many years? Fred fell into deep thought. He wondered how to bring up Ella naturally without stirring up the Duke and Duchess's painful memories. He hesitated, looking as if he wanted to speak but held back. This made Duke Roderick mistakenly think he had something to say to the Duchess alone, so he proactively found an excuse to leave. "So, Your Highness, is there something you wish to say?" Ophelia asked gently. Fred began cautiously. "Duchess, I heard you are from the Temora Republic." "Yes, I only became a citizen of the Empire after I married. I was just curious. Is your silver hair a characteristic of the people of Temora? I do not believe I have ever seen it before." Ophelia explained that it was a trait inherited from her mother's side, which had now become a standard of her Highland family. Highland, Ella Highland. He recalled Ella's name. The girl's face appeared in his mind, gradually overlapping with the Duchess before him. He stood up abruptly. 3 years ago, I met a silver-haired girl. She said her name was Ella Highland. She had the same silver hair as you, and blue eyes similar to the Duke's. Ophelia froze instantly. Tears streamed down her face silently. Her lips trembled as she repeated Ella. "My Ella." Fred recounted the details of their meeting one by one. "I'm very sorry for not telling you sooner. She seemed to be in some kind of danger at the time." Fred relayed Ella's message. "She said she cannot see you yet, but she asked you to please wait for her. She swore she would definitely return to your side." Watching the Duke and Duchess embrace and weep, Fred's own eyes grew warm. "Ella, your family is waiting for you. They have been longing for you to come home." After a long while, Ophelia's emotions finally calmed down. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I lost my composure. You do not need to apologize. To be honest, I also find it incredible that I was able to meet your daughter." Ophelia smiled. This must be a special fate. After all, Ella is Your Highness's fiancée. Roderick's face instantly darkened. Ophelia laughed and explained it was just a joke, but Fred was already stunned. He blushed beet red. "Ella is my fiancée," he stammered. "What on earth is going on?" The time goes back 15 years. The Emperor's and the Duke's families were enjoying a friendly gathering. A 3-year-old Fred leaned over the cradle, not moving an inch, staring intently at the little white bundle that was baby Ella. "Can I keep looking at her?" The child's words amused the adults. The Emperor even teased Roderick. "How about you consider my son? Let's have him engaged to your daughter." Roderick's face darkened on the spot. His precious treasure was only 1 year old, and she was already going to be snatched away by some little boy. "Please do not make such jokes." But Fred seriously asked his mother, "What does engage mean?" "It is a promise to become husband and wife in the future. A promise to be together forever, to protect each other, and to spend your lives together." At that time, Fred could not yet understand the meaning of these words, but he firmly declared that he wanted to be engaged to Ella. You cannot discuss Ella's marriage. It is 100 years too early. Even if you're the crown prince, you have to wait until she is an adult to talk about it. The Emperor looked at the Duke's reaction and burst out laughing. "Why are you so serious? Was it not just a joke?" But Fred was so anxious he started to cry. "Dad, I am not joking. I want to be engaged to Ella." Learning that he had done such a thing as a child, Fred was so embarrassed he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Recalling that past event, Ophelia's eyes glistened with tears, but her face was full of happiness. That had been her happiest time. "I've not been this full of hope in a long time. Thanks to Your Highness, I can look forward to the future again." Fred was filled with emotion, not knowing how to respond to this expectation. Meanwhile, Ella was with Claude and Laura, who were disguised as fur merchants. They had split from Byron as an advance team, preparing to head to a new hiding place. Ella's condition had slightly improved, but she still had a fever. She could not drink the disguise potion to hide her identity. Suddenly, a pair of soldiers approached them. Claude and Laura tensed up, telling Ella to put on her cloak and hide in the carriage. We are the nightly order responsible for this area. Due to recent frequent robberies, we need to inspect all passing vehicles. Claude calmly played the part of a fur merchant dealing with them. But a soldier at the back of the group stared at Claude, suddenly finding him very familiar. Noticing the scar on Claude's eye, the soldier suddenly drew his sword and charged. I have seen this man on a wanted poster. Go back and request reinforcements. Claude quickly drew his sword to block. He was well aware of the unfavorable situation. It seemed he would have to kill them quickly. Just then, Ella suddenly stepped out of the carriage. Claude, let me fight with you. After being kidnapped by the villain for many years, having finally gotten a chance to escape, Ella proactively offered to fight the searching soldiers alongside Claude. Claude tried to stop her, but Ella insisted, if you do not let me fight now, when will I ever gain real combat experience? Actually, Ella had another plan. She wanted to save these soldiers. If Claude fought them himself, they would surely not think about running, and there is no need to call for reinforcements. The soldiers looked at each other, finally deciding to fight Ella. There was no information about Ella on the wanted poster. Rather than facing the powerful Claude, it was better to fight this girl. They might even be able to gather important intelligence. Claude reluctantly agreed. If you cannot defeat them in 30 minutes, I will step in. The soldiers were still hesitant. 3 adult men against a young girl seemed a bit like bullying. Ella took her stance, ready to attack. Do not underestimate me. All 3 of you, come at me together. By the time Byron arrived, he saw only soldiers lying scattered on the ground. My daughter, did you take care of them all by yourself? Ella knelt on the ground, holding her sword and panting. In truth, she had not dealt a fatal blow, only knocked them all unconscious. She whispered to a soldier who was still somewhat conscious, play dead, quickly. If they find out, you will really lose your life. The soldier was bewildered. What was this girl trying to do? Father, I just wanted to help you. Hearing Ella say this, Byron's face lit up with a smile that I knew my daughter would not disappoint me. But at this moment, a surging killing intent was brewing in Ella's heart. Kill him. The sword was in her hand. If she just turned and swung her sword now, she could take Byron's life. But Ella desperately suppressed her thoughts. Not yet. The curse Byron had placed on her was not yet broken. She had to endure. Ella slowly stood up. Thank you for your praise, Father. Byron hurried forward to remove Ella's cloak. Good. Your hair did not get dirty. The soldier playing dead listened to their every move. It was very strange. When did the fugitive Grand Prince have a silver-haired daughter? At Claude's urging, the group prepared to leave. The soldier grew anxious. He could not let Byron escape just like that. He struggled to get up, but Ella cleverly stopped him. Do not do that. Take your comrades and go back. And do not send a pursuit team. Now is not the time to capture Byron. Late at night, in a corner of the forest, Byron's group squeezed into a carriage to get their story straight. Now, because of rampant bandits, there were checkpoints set up by nightly orders everywhere. The original retreat plan was no longer feasible. Master, how about we go to the underworld? We have brought a lot of treasure. If we can talk to that woman properly, we might get her help. But Byron was very displeased with the suggestion. Are you crazy? I have had enough of what I went through in that garbage heap 11 years ago. No matter what happens, I will never go back. Ella secretly wondered what kind of place that was, and who that woman was. Perhaps we can go to Selkoff. Byron's suggestion surprised both Claude and Laura. We are going abroad. I know someone. He is a smuggler active here. If we go over, he might arrange a hiding place for us. News of Byron's reappearance was quickly reported. The captain of the guard, Alec, rushed from the capital to the border overnight. He pushed open the door. Who saw Byron? Tell me quickly. The soldier reported everything they had encountered to Alec, especially mentioning the mysterious silver-haired girl. After hearing his description, Alex suddenly remembered that during the investigation of the Crown Prince's Imperial gift case 3 years ago, there was also a story about a silver-haired girl. At that time, they found a long strand of silver hair on the Crown Prince's cloak. Now the clues finally matched. It could be basically confirmed. The silver-haired girl with Byron was Ella, the daughter of the Duke of Highland. Before she left, the girl also said something strange. Now is not the time to capture Byron. Alec thought quickly. This girl called Byron father, which means she was raised as Byron's daughter. But she also knew her true identity. It was clear she was a meticulous person. There must be a deeper meaning behind her words. If we send a pursuit team now, we might be able to catch up with them. But Alec refused that we cannot send a pursuit team. That child is a hostage now. If we rashly pursue Byron, she will be in danger. All of you must keep this matter a secret. Alec immediately returned to the imperial palace. Byron's reappearance was a major issue and had to be reported to the emperor immediately. Learning that the long-wanted traitor Byron had reappeared, Captain of the Guard Alec rushed back to the imperial palace overnight. He reported this news to the emperor. In the meeting room, people sat around a table. The emperor read through the documents Alec had compiled, learning that Duke Roderick's long-lost daughter, Ella, had been kidnapped by Byron, and for over a decade, she had been living under Byron's control. But this time, she told the soldiers not to rush to pursue Byron. What are your thoughts on this? Alec was the first to break the silence. According to the injured soldier's description, this girl's swordsmanship is exquisite, able to fight 3 soldiers alone. But if she has such strength, why can she not escape Byron's control? This does not seem logical. Crown Prince Fred also had his doubts. When I met Ella 3 years ago, she seemed to move about freely. If she was truly not confident about escaping Byron, how could she promise that she would definitely come back in the future? So what was the real reason? The emperor looked at everyone. Duke Roderick did not answer directly. Instead, he requested the emperor to issue an edict for a full investigation of the nobles. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone fell silent. The emperor looked at him with a sharp gaze. Are you trying to stir up conflict among the nobles? Roderick said in a low voice, "Some time ago, we found Byron's stronghold in the west, but we were one step too late. They had already cleared out. From the traces of their evacuation, they took a large amount of supplies and moved quickly. This means that someone is secretly supporting Byron from behind." The emperor's eyes suddenly turned sharp. What are you implying? There must be a traitor in this country. The rebels have never truly disappeared. Roderick's words made the air freeze instantly. The emperor was silent for a moment. He said coldly, "When I inherited the throne, the punishment for the rebel forces was very strict. You were also involved in this matter as the person in charge. Your words just now are tantamount to admitting our incompetence." Roderick, I will give you a chance to take back that statement. I'm afraid I cannot. Roderick's unyielding attitude made the atmosphere instantly tense. Fred was at a loss, wanting to say something to ease the tension. Unexpectedly, in the next second, the emperor and Roderick suddenly reached a consensus. I will have the Ministry of Internal Affairs provide a list. I will adjust my schedule to cooperate with the investigation. Fred was dumbfounded, but Alec was used to such scenes. Your Highness, you have only recently started participating in political discussions. These two have always been like this. The emperor took the opportunity to teach Fred that a person who is both a subject and a friend, who can give frank advice to the emperor, is a rare treasure. My child, you must be cautious when choosing friends. You must learn to cherish such people. I understand. Father, Roderick speculated that Ella's inability to return might also be related to this reason. As a father, he was determined to bring his daughter home. Late at night, in a village on the border, a woman in a cloak arrived quietly in a carriage. A place like this, with all sorts of people, was the perfect spot for exchanging information. That couple is too upright. They would never think of coming to a place like this to look for Ella. At a time like this, as Ophelia's best friend, I must step up. This person was Ophelia's good friend, Candace. As the dean of the academy in the Timora Republic, she had recently received a letter from her friend learning that Ophelia was pregnant again. She immediately rushed to the Empire. On one hand, it was to visit her friend whom she had not seen in years. On the other hand, it was to help find the missing Ella. She was just about to find a tavern to sit in and gather some clues. Suddenly, a scream came from not far away. She saw 2 men harassing a girl. "Come on, come have some fun with us." The girl struggled desperately, but to no avail. Realizing the girl was in danger, Candace was about to use magic to intervene. Unexpectedly, a beautiful figure in a cloak suddenly appeared. As the cloak flew, the girl made a light leap, landing on the man's shoulders. She clamped down hard with her knees. The man instantly fell to the ground. The other man had not even reacted. He was hit by the girl's roundhouse kick. Watching the girl neatly take care of the 2 men, Candace stood frozen in place. Ella urged Laura to hurry back. Father will be angry if we are late. Under the moonlight, Candace finally saw Ella's face clearly. Those blue eyes, as bright as stars, were breathtakingly beautiful. Who was this girl? Seeing the silver-haired girl swiftly deal with 2 ruffians, Candace was quite shocked. Curiosity drove her to approach and strike up a conversation, but Laura spoke first. I saw you were about to help me just now. Thank you very much." After saying that, she quickly pulled Ella away. Candace subconsciously wanted to follow, but the magic pocket watch in her bosom suddenly chimed. It was time to meet the coachman and leave. Looking at the receding figure, an inexplicable sense of concern welled up in her heart. Then she told herself to snap out of it. "I am here to find Ophelia's daughter. I should not waste time on a strange girl. If it is meant to be, we will meet again someday." When Ella arrived at the inn, she happened to find Byron in a rage. The boatman who had promised to take them away tomorrow had suddenly raised the price. Byron, furious, asked him the reason. "Because the situation has changed. Your identity has been exposed, and there are rumors that there is a traitor among you." Hearing this, Ella's body tensed. Byron's sharp gaze swept over her. Could it be that those soldiers did not all die? Otherwise, how could such a rumor have spread? "My daughter, do you have anything to explain?" Byron's repeated questioning made Ella nervous. "Master, it was my negligence." Just then, Claude suddenly walked over, shielding Ella behind him. It was the young lady's first real battle, so it is natural for there to be some oversights. "It was I who failed to check thoroughly at the end." Byron was skeptical. "Why would you make such a basic mistake? It was not on purpose, was it?" "Absolutely not." "Then how do you plan to take responsibility for this?" Claude did not speak. He turned to look at Ella. He gestured for her to leave. Ella fled back to her room and locked the door, her heart pounding. Why did Claude help her? Did he know something? Was this just a simple act of kindness? Recalling the pity in Claude's eyes as he looked at her. Why did he always look at her like that? Ella once again thought of Fred's warm smile. She curled up in a ball in pain. In the Imperial Palace, Fred was repeatedly revising a painting. After a small mountain of discarded drafts, he finally showed a satisfied smile. "All right, now, I will put it in a frame." A knock sounded at the door. A maid came in with tea and snacks. "Your Highness, have some tea and take a rest. How is your painting coming along?" "Binka, you have come the right time. Can you ask an attendant to get a frame for me? It seems you have finished your painting." "Congratulations, Your Highness." Fred looked at her busy figure with some apology. "Sorry to keep you so busy right after you return from your leave." "Your Highness need not worry. It is only right to work hard after returning from leave." Binka's gaze inadvertently swept over the drawing in Fred's hand. "Who is Your Highness painting?" Fred was about to show her excitedly, but he suddenly stopped. "Sorry, I cannot tell you yet." Binka's smile froze for a moment. "That I understand. After all, I am just a maid." Fred quickly explained, "No, it is not that. I am just a little embarrassed." After a while, Binka came out of Fred's room. She told the attendant guarding the door to get a frame. She walked alone down the palace corridor. She gradually came to a stop. She looked out the window at the dim night and suddenly spoke. "The effect is intermittent. Did you lie to me to make this deal?" In an instant, a strange black mist spread from the window. It swallowed the surrounding light, plunging everything into darkness. A hoarse voice echoed from the void. "That magic item has its limits. After all, it is still in the experimental stage. It is inevitable that there will be problems." In the darkness, a scorpion pattern slowly appeared on the window. "You still want it, do you not? You greedy young lady." Binka looked coldly at the scorpion. "Either you fix it or you give me a new one." But the voice refused. "Oh, you know how tricky mind control magic is? You are not worth that much of my effort. I admit your blood is interesting, but that is all. I have fulfilled my part of the bargain." The scorpion pattern twisted and deformed, gradually turning into a blurry human figure. "If you do not want to be exposed for infiltrating the Imperial Palace, let us stop here." As the voice faded, the black mist suddenly dissipated and the surroundings returned to normal. Just then, an attendant walked over with a frame. He was taken aback when he saw Binka. "Who are you? Why are you standing here? I have never seen you before." A strange curve appeared on Binka's lips. "What do you mean you have never seen me? I am Binka. You are the one who just returned from leave. Are you joking with me?" As soon as the Duke returned home, he saw his wife's best friend, Candace, standing at the door, striking a pose to welcome him. "Welcome back, Your Grace." She had intended to play a prank, but she did not expect the crown prince to be with him. "Thank you for the warm welcome," Fred said. Ophelia smiled and made the introduction, while Candace apologized awkwardly. "My apologies. I just wanted to play a little joke. If you have important matters to discuss, I can step aside." Fred smiled and waved his hand, "No need. I just came to deliver a gift." He ordered a framed painting to be brought in. It was a portrait of Ella he had painted from memory. "Since Ella cannot return for now, I hope this painting can ease your longing." The moment the Duke and Duchess saw the painting, their breathing stopped. Candace, however, was shocked. What was going on? The girl she had met in the border village a few days ago was actually Ella. But how did the Crown Prince know her? Ophelia excitedly hugged the painting, tears streaming down her face, thanking Fred repeatedly. Seeing her friend so happy, Candace also felt genuinely pleased. Ella was listlessly leaning against the window, gazing into the distance. The maid, Laura, suddenly rushed in. "Young lady, we must leave as soon as possible." Seeing Ella with the window open, she immediately went to stop her. "How could you open the window without permission? Your silver hair is very rare. You should not let others see it so casually." She handed Ella a bottle of disguise potion and told her to drink it. "From now on, we have a long way to go. You need to take better care of your health. Do not suddenly faint like last time. Your body no longer belongs only to you." The potion quickly took effect. Ella's silver hair turned pinkish gold, and the color of her eyes lightened considerably. She was very clear about her current situation. Before she was strong enough, any rash move could lead to a major disaster. If something went wrong due to her carelessness, how heartbroken her parents far away would be. In this future full of unknowns and threats, only those brief, warm memories supported her to keep going. But she did not know how much longer this road would be. However, Ella did not notice. A scorpion pattern flashed on her body for an instant. After several days of travel, the group finally arrived at Zenov Peak in Inselkov, across the border. The Count stood at the entrance of his manor, warmly welcoming Byron's arrival. But Byron, looking exhausted, complained, "The route you arranged was absolutely terrible. I cannot help it. Who asked you to smuggle yourselves over illegally?" Saying this, he introduced his son, Gerard, to everyone. This young nobleman's gaze lingered on Ella, a hard-to-read expression in his eyes. Meanwhile, the Duke's residence was in an uproar. Candace had told the Duke and Duchess about her chance encounter with Ella. It was dark, so I did not see her face clearly, but I'm certain that her blue eyes were identical to the ones in the painting. The location was a run-down village near the eastern port of the empire. It is a gathering place for many fugitives smuggling themselves out of the country. Ophelia was in disbelief. "Are you saying Ella has left the empire?" Learning this news, the Duke was also filled with deep self-blame, but he still suppressed his heartache to comfort his wife. "My dear, Ella specifically sent a message for us not to track her. There must be dangers ahead that we do not know about. Although this decision is heart-wrenching, perhaps this is the best way to protect her." But knowing her daughter was getting farther and farther away, Ophelia could not calm down at all. "I disagree. Ella is still a child. The most important thing now is to get her away from danger. We should at least investigate the situation clearly first. Even if it means taking risks, we should get as close to her as possible." Seeing the argument escalating, Candace quickly interrupted them. "Please, both of you, calm down. Ella would not want to see you arguing. Your love for Ella is beyond doubt. You are just thinking from different perspectives. Let's discuss this calmly. We can surely find a solution that works for everyone." Candace's words slightly eased the tense atmosphere. The group began to re-examine the clues. Fred worried, "If we act rashly, I am afraid we will alert the enemy. What if Byron harms Ella?" But Ophelia suddenly thought of something. Byron's team probably does not have any high-level mages, right? If we use magic to track Ella, they might not notice. This sentence reminded Fred that I remember now. 3 years ago, I gave her a magic box. We can use it to track her whereabouts. To rescue the girl who had been kidnapped for many years, the Crown Prince. Fred suddenly thought of the magic box he had given to Ella 3 years ago. As its creator, the Duchess could use it to locate Ella. Unexpectedly, after hearing this proposal, everyone fell silent. Ophelia told Fred apologetically, "I am sorry, Your Highness. The illness I had 3 years ago caused me to lose all my magic power. Now, I cannot even call myself a mage anymore." Fred was stunned, clearly not expecting this answer. "This is precisely the reason for my visit," Candace explained softly. "Medicine could not determine the cause of Ophelia's illness, so we need to use magic for further investigation." After a moment of silence, Ophelia suddenly spoke. "We might still have a chance." It turned out that when she made the magic box, she had deliberately hidden her unique magic fluctuations. This made it impossible for outsiders to detect traces of its use. But the more skillfully one could hide these fluctuations, the more keenly one could detect them. Now, even though she herself had lost her magic power, as long as they found a mage more powerful than her, they would be able to sense it. But Fred was doubtful. But now, in this world, there is no mage more powerful than you. Then, if we just train a mage to be more powerful than me, the problem will be solved. And right now, we have a particularly outstanding mage in front of us. Ophelia walked up to Candace and said earnestly, I will teach you all the experience and knowledge I have accumulated in my life. I will make you the greatest mage on this continent. Candace's eyes widened in an instant. This had always been her dream. In the manner of the Count of Zenov, Gerard was dining alone with Ella. He slowly cut a piece of steak. I think women are better off being quiet. Ella was baffled by his sudden remark. I am complimenting your good table manners. Do you not understand? Ella secretly rolled her eyes. What kind of compliment was that? She did not want to deal with this arrogant man at all. His every move made her feel uncomfortable, but due to her circumstances, she could only endure it. Hey, what is your name? Ella was silent for a moment, then replied coldly, I do not have a name. Gerard sneered mockingly. How can a person not have a name? Are you kidding me? If you do not want to tell me, you could have just said so. Ella gripped her dining knife, suppressing her anger. What could she do? Of course, she had a name. It was just that Byron, in order to control her, had never told her about her past life. It was only just before she died that Byron told her the whole truth. This is so annoying. Then I will give you a name. Gerard looked her up and down. The color of your hair is very nice. How about I call you Blondie? Gerard's frivolous tone finally made Ella furious. She could not bear it any longer and retorted, I just want to stay here quietly for a while. I would be grateful if you could pretend I do not exist. Gerard nonchalantly played with a knife and fork in his hand. How could I pretend you do not exist? We are about to be engaged. This sentence struck Ella like a lightning bolt. What did you say? Gerard enjoyed the sight of the girl's face instantly turning pale. Guess why the elders are not dining with us? Because they're discussing our marriage. In the office, Byron directly rejected the Count of Zenov's marriage proposal. I do not agree to the engagement. The Count tried to persuade him to reconsider. IT would help deepen our cooperation, would it not? Byron put down the documents in his hand and sneered. Let me tell you a secret. That child is not my biological daughter. She's just a hunting dog I raised. Are you really going to ruin your son's marriage for such a worthless person? The Count had not yet recovered from Byron's words. Think about it carefully, Count of Zenov. Do not covet what belongs to me. I'm saying all this for your own good. To completely dispel the Count's idea, Byron gave him a stack of documents. The Count's cloudy eyes immediately gleamed with greed. So much information about the Empire. With this, I can gain the trust of the royal family. Byron looked at the Count with cold eyes, feeling utter contempt. What a greedy fool. If he had listened to me, he could have been in power long ago, relying on the wealth left by his ancestors to survive until now. I wonder how much longer you can last. The girl and the man had just met, and she was immediately asked to be engaged. Can you embroider? How well do you play the piano? Do you know how to tie a tie for your husband? Have you learned tea ceremony etiquette? If you marry me, get rid of that tacky dress. When my family is promoted to a duchy, I will naturally buy you things worthy of your beauty. A duchess should act like a duchess. Gerard's arrogant words made Ella unable to bear it any longer. She took advantage of the man's inattention to hide in the flower bushes. If it were not for her current situation of being dependent on others, she really wanted to beat him until his teeth were all over the ground. But thinking of Byron's gloomy face, Ella could only endure it. So there you are. Sensing someone approaching from behind, Ella reflexively grabbed the hand and executed a clean shoulder throw. In the next second, Gerard was pinned to the ground by Ella. The two locked eyes, and the air instantly froze. Gerard angrily raised his other hand, about to hit Ella, but his wrist was tightly gripped by Claude, who arrived just in time. Essergard, I cannot allow you to use violence against her. Gerard was furious. You, a mere commoner, dare to stop me, a nobleman. A person like you, our family's knights could take care of you with a single glance. Seeing Claude's voice suddenly turn cold, Gerard's arrogant demeanor instantly vanished. He scrambled away in embarrassment. He did not forget to throw a threat over his shoulder. You just wait. Young lady, are you all right? Ella shook her head. The engagement must be fake, right? Of course. The master would never let you go, would he? Although those words were unpleasant to hear, they were the truth. Not far away, Byron stood by the window, taking in the whole scene. He frowned in displeasure and turned to leave. Fred. Fred! In a daze, the Crown Prince seemed to hear someone calling his name. It was Ella's voice that, "I am sorry. I cannot see you anymore." Fred's heart pounded. He chased after the voice. "Ella, do not give up. My teacher has never given up looking for you. I'm also trying to track your whereabouts. Principal Candace has also started learning magic again. That is not the problem. Then what is it?" Finally, Fred found Ella, but he saw her nestled in another man's arms. "I am getting engaged to someone else." Fred's eyes shot open. Cold sweat soaked his pajamas. It took him a long moment to realize he was dreaming. Just then, the maid Binka walked in. "You are awake, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Did you sleep well last night?" Seeing Fred's pale face, Binka asked considerately, "What is wrong? You can talk to me about it." "It was just a dream." Fred awkwardly changed the subject. "By the way, you always take such good care of me. Is it not very tiring for you?" "How could it be tiring? It is my honor to serve Your Highness the Crown Prince." A strange light flashed in Binka's eyes. "Although it may be presumptuous to say so, I have always thought of you as a younger brother." Fred was somewhat surprised. Binka's voice suddenly dropped. "Actually, I have a younger brother who is the same age as Your Highness. My mother only told me about this recently before she passed away. She wanted me to reunite with my brother and take good care of him." Binka's eyes were full of tenderness. "I am very happy to be able to take care of my brother like this now. Unconsciously, our relationship has become closer. So, serving Your Highness. Your Highness the Crown Prince." A sudden voice interrupted Binka. The chief steward strode in. He frowned when he saw Binka. "Why are you here?" An attendant was scheduled to serve him this morning. Binka quickly apologized. "I am sorry. I was not notified. I will leave now." Fred looked at the chief steward's stern attitude with confusion. "Your Highness, you are about to come of age. It is best to have less contact with the opposite sex. It would not be good for you if rumors were spread now." As soon as Binka left, Fred threw a pillow at the chief steward's face. "What nonsense are you talking about?" The chief steward explained with a straight face. "It is because Your Highness is so kind to the maids. Such an attitude can be misunderstood. Rumors easily spread from such details." Fred was puzzled. "Can't you just clarify? Such baseless news." By then, it will be too late. Fred was a little speechless. Too late for what? It is not like she is the one I like. Ella's voice suddenly flashed in his mind, and his ears unconsciously turned red. "I see. You have someone else in your heart." Caught red-handed, Fred's face instantly flushed. "That is not true." The chief steward had an "I knew it" expression. In any case, please be mindful to keep your distance from Binka to avoid misunderstandings." "I know. I will be careful." Actually, Fred did not care about others' gossip. He was just worried that if one day, after Ella returned to her parents' arms, she heard rumors about the Crown Prince's chaotic private life, she might dislike them because of it. Everyone was doing their best to bring Ella home soon. Ophelia taught Candace all the magic experience she had accumulated in her life, hoping she could sense Ella's whereabouts soon. Duke Roderick also cooperated with the Emperor in handling political affairs, continuing to track down Byron's remnants. And Ella, far away in Selkoff, was also training her swordsmanship as usual. The only thing that troubled her was the need to be constantly vigilant against Gerard's harassment. Fortunately, with Claude's protection, Gerard could never find an opportunity. Half a year passed in a flash. One day, the clear cry of a baby echoed in the Duke's residence. Ophelia had safely given birth to a baby boy. The joy of welcoming a new life made the couple weep with happiness. "My dear, you have worked hard." Just then, Candace burst in. Ophelia weakly asked her what was wrong. "Has there been any progress in your research?" Candace leaned closer to look at the baby in the swaddling clothes. "What a beautiful little one." Then she announced excitedly, "I think I have finally overcome the research bottleneck. Just give me a little more time, and I will definitely be able to find your daughter, Ella." The good news soon reached the imperial palace. The emperor sighed with relief. "It seems this is a good omen. My son, go and complete your mission well." "Rest assured, father, I will complete the mission." About to embark on his first solo diplomatic visit as crown prince, Fred was preparing to lead a delegation to Selkoff. He would attend the investiture ceremony of that country's crown prince, in the manner of the Count of Zenov. Ella had just breathed a sigh of relief after escaping Gerard's pestering. Why was this person as sticky as taffy, impossible to shake off? Suddenly, the voice of the Count of Zenov came from the room next to her. Duke Badges was caught tampering with the relief funds by the king. For now, he can only stay in his territory. Byron snorted coldly in displeasure. Ella, hiding outside the door, held her breath and eavesdropped. The Duke's faction does not dare to say anything either. It seems the king will take this opportunity. Just then, Byron suddenly looked alertly towards the door. It was empty. Ella had already nimbly slipped aside, closed the door first. Hearing this, Ella quickly left. The Count stood up and closed the door. As an ardent supporter of the Duke, he had always believed the Duke was more suitable for the throne than the current king. Especially after hearing that the king was going to make his own son the crown prince, he was as anxious as a cat on a hot tin roof, wanting to discuss countermeasures with Byron Duppy. By the way, I heard the crown prince of the empire will also lead a delegation here. A glint flashed in Byron's eyes. Since my nephew is coming, how about we take this opportunity to assassinate him? The Count, hearing this, quickly tried to stop him, and the risk is too great. But Byron insisted. How will we know if we do not try? Even if we fail, as long as we can cause a commotion, it will be enough. But the Count was still timid and tried to persuade Byron to give up. This completely infuriated Byron. You talk too much. The atmosphere instantly froze. The Count stood stiffly, not knowing what to say. Byron had also calmed down by now. He had already experienced one failed assassination attempt and could not risk it again. He softened his tone that I think you should change your way of thinking. Are you really content to work for that hopeless Duke Badges? If you continue like this, you will only become a thorn in the king's side. A man must have ambition. You can also choose to sit on this throne yourself. With just a few words, Byron ignited the greedy desires in the Count's heart. The thought of supreme status and wealth made him tremble with excitement. That is to say, you will help me become the king of Inselkov. This is just a proposal. If I were to help you, it does not seem very profitable for me right now. The Count immediately knelt down and pledged his loyalty to Byron. As long as you help me, I will do anything for you. Byron swirled the wine in his glass, glancing at the Count kneeling at his feet. The first thing I want you to do is to make your son stay away from my daughter. Gerard was very angry when he learned of this. Did you not say you wanted us to get engaged before? But that guest does not seem very willing. Father, are you just going to let him push you around? Why are you acting like a fool? The Count was furious. How can you speak to me like that? Gerard did not back down either that I do not care. I want to marry her. Seeing his son so insistent, the Count tried to persuade him gently to be good. I will find you an even more beautiful girl. I do not want one. I only like her. Pushed to his limit, the Count blurted out, what do you know? That girl is not that guest's biological daughter. You will not get any benefit from marrying her. Hearing this, Gerard suddenly stopped in his tracks. He looked at the Count with a sharp gaze. That bitch was deliberately playing hard to get and putting on airs. The Count told him to lower his voice. Even she does not know about this. You must not spread it around. Gerard's face showed a sneer. If you want me to agree, fine. But on one condition, please tell that guest that I want to spend a day alone with that girl. This is a deal between him and me. If he wants to change my mind, he has to pay the price. When the Count relayed this message, Byron agreed. This kid is much better than his father. After learning that Ella was not Byron's biological daughter, Gerard immediately had crooked ideas. He insisted on spending a whole day alone with Ella, otherwise he would keep pestering her. After getting Byron's permission, Gerard went to find Ella, who was training, and told her the news. Ella sighed helplessly. Seeing that she was not avoiding him as usual, Gerard pushed his luck and moved closer. You are so obedient today. Are you finally ready to go on a date with me? Ella resisted the urge to roll her eyes. Since my father agreed, I cannot refuse. I just have to stay with you today, right? But Gerard wagged his finger with a sly smile. Not today. Such a rare opportunity, of course, deserves more special treatment. He took the opportunity to get close to Ella and quickly kissed her on the forehead. Let us go out together on the day of the festival. Ella froze instantly. By the time she recovered from her shock and disgust, Gerard had already retreated 3 meters away, looking at her smugly. Soon, our country will hold the investiture ceremony for the crown prince. Royal family members from all countries will attend. You have never attended such a grand event, have you? Gerard was still rambling on about the luxury of the festival, but Ella's thoughts had already drifted far away. What about Fred? Will he come too? Has he changed after so many years? Will he still remember me? Are you listening, Blondie? Gerard's voice pulled Ella back to her senses. I was a little distracted just now. I will go with you on the day of the festival. Ella's perfunctory attitude made Gerard very dissatisfied. is so arrogant. But this is the last time. In the imperial palace of the empire, Crown Prince Fred was having his formal attire for the visit tailored. After the measurements are taken, today's work is finished. Tomorrow is a day off. Your Highness can visit the Duke's residence. Hearing the chief steward's words, Fred's eyes lit up. Great. I can see Noah's cute little face before I leave. What kind of gift should I get this time? How about a crib mobile? Children all like this kind of exquisite gift. It would be even better if it were inlaid with jewels, Binka suggested while taking Fred's measurements. Fred looked at Binka and gestured, then turned to ask the chief steward's opinion. What do you think? The chief steward nodded with a smile. Miss Binka's suggestion is very good, but time is tight. We can only choose a ready-made one. You can personally select the gems to adorn it. That will be enough to show your sincerity. Binka thanked the chief steward, and her earrings swayed with her movement. Thank you for your affirmation, Lord Steward. You are too kind, Miss Binka. Your Highness, I will go contact the craftsman now. Fred looked at the unusually harmonious atmosphere between the two and felt that something was not right. Previously, the chief steward had been quite dissatisfied with Binka serving him. Now, he did not seem to mind her cheerful words and actions at all, even praising her. It had only been a few days. Why had his attitude changed so drastically? Even everyone around him seemed to think it was normal. Was he being too sensitive? Fred suddenly remembered what his father had told him about Byron. Your uncle is a very sensitive and emotional person. He often picks fights over trivial matters, suddenly loses his temper, and takes it out on innocent servants, even taking their lives. Even if I tried to stop him, it was useless. I could only temporarily calm his anger. Everyone feared him. The emperor's voice was pained and cold. Even if one day you have to threaten his life, you need not feel guilty. At that time, Fred was very shocked because his father had always valued family ties the most. But for him to say such a thing, it showed how deeply Byron had hurt him. Fred remembered his grandfather's last words. You must be more upright and outstanding than you are now. Be a true crown prince. You must never become a person like Byron. Fred also constantly reminded himself to make his loved ones proud, to always remain kind and gentle. He must never casually let down those who smiled at him. Your Highness, the measurements are all done. Binka's voice brought him back to reality. Fred collected his thoughts, his tone unconsciously becoming a little cold. Thank you. You may go now. Binka immediately looked aggrieved. Your Highness, did I do something wrong? Please tell me. I'm afraid you are growing distant from me, afraid you dislike me. Fred was silent for a moment, then explained helplessly, you did nothing wrong. It is just that the chief steward told me to keep my distance from you to avoid gossip. It seems I failed to grasp the proper measure. Binka breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, so that is it. You're the crown prince, after all. But I have only ever thought of you as a younger brother. Fred felt a little apologetic. It is my fault too. I should have explained it to you first. I understand. I will be more careful in the future. Binka curtsied obediently and withdrew. However, the moment she stepped out of the room, her gentle expression instantly turned icy in the setting sun. The earring on her shoulder reflected a dazzling and eerie light.